Ahoy, fair seafarers, and welcome to the Q4 2023 update to what's next in OpenShift. This is the Halloween edition and comes with a twist, as you can see. Stay tuned for more on that. What's next offers an overview of the direction, initiatives, and exciting new use cases that we want to take the product in over the next 6 to 8 months time horizon. This is an hour-long presentation that covers the summary and motivation for this roadmap. Details can be found in the appendix. Please note that this material discussed here is subject to change. I am Tushar Katarki, and with me today, I have a fantastic team of OpenShift product managers, colleagues of mine who will join me as speakers. In addition, we have other product managers who are on the call to help answer questions. Please ask your questions via the chat dialog box, and we'll answer them in real time. We can all agree that creating value for our organizations depends on the ability to develop and deliver high-quality apps, and that, especially now, increasingly augmented with AI, faster on any cloud and infrastructure. Value can be created by apps through increase in customer satisfaction, through new innovations, gain in competitive advantage by offering differentiated digital services, increase in revenue by optimizing existing business services or rolling out new services and therefore revenue streams, and finally, reduction of operational costs. Red Hat, as you know, has been on this journey to enable customers to deliver applications and services, be it cloud native, traditional, or newer apps like AI and machine learning, securely and consistently across a wide range of physical and virtual infrastructure that can span from the data center to the cloud and increasingly to the edge. Red Hat OpenShift, with our upstream open source communities, ecosystem of partners and solutions, has been central to that journey. In some ways, that remains our mission and vision. As you know, OpenShift is available as a fully managed cloud service or a self-managed platform on a number of clouds, platform infrastructure. What is relatively new are some of the increments that we are making when it comes to these cloud services. You can choose the model that best suits your needs or a combination of both so that you can run OpenShift anywhere, anyway, and at any time. We have 4,000 plus customers like you all, thanks, using OpenShift, and how the customers use it, the use cases and workloads that they use it for, and enable with it to solve business problems and addressing their pain points that exist while doing that informs our roadmap. We as product managers take that input and crystallize that feedback into these foundational themes. The first one is this trusted core container and Kubernetes engine that powers all our offerings. We'll continue to invest in it upstream and within the product to make it more secure, reliable, and repeatable. Curated cloud-native application development and deployment platform is where customers bring new applications or change existing ones for rapid time to value and productivity. So we'll continue to invest in that, innovate there to assist that. Finally, a consistent platform that works across different clouds, multiple clouds, data centers, and the edge helps our customers to scale their business to new use cases, new workloads, new situations, regulatory frameworks, data sovereignty needs, etc., and helps push new boundaries. So those are the basic themes. And we are not starting from scratch in this. So we are excited to share in the next couple of slides. This first one you see here is the world's leading research and advisory company Gartner named Red Hat as a leader in the first ever Magic Quadrant for container management and a challenger in the Magic Quadrant for DevOps platform. Not only is Red Hat the only hybrid cloud offering in this leaders quadrant, but also the only company that can deliver consistent container management across all of these leading clouds, both as software and integrated managed services. The Forrester is yet another leading analyst firm, as you all know, has also placed OpenShift as a leader in the Forrester multi-wave, multi-cloud container platforms for Q4 2023. This validates some of the themes that we discussed earlier, and we are proud of you, and thanks to you all, our customers and partners, for using OpenShift and putting it to good use. Here's the fun part. As I said earlier, this roadmap presentation is a Halloween edition. So it has this, in that spirit of Halloween, we'll walk you through the roadmap using a sea voyage as a metaphor. Think of the sea as your environment, your organizational and your industry, and you are embarked on a journey to the destination with many ports of call in the middle. Precious cargo is your metaphor for your applications, and OpenShift is the fleet of ships of different kinds that you will need to build and help navigate for your developers, data scientists, DevOps engineers, increasingly machine learning ops engineers or MLOps engineers, and your operations teams to navigate the sea through these many ports to your destination. Captain Karina is going to kick us off with how to stock the shipyard and the ships with able shipbuilders and sailors that are metaphors for developers, DevOps, MLOps engineers. Take it away, Captain Karina.
Thank you, Captain Tushar. All right, next slide. Thank you. All right, let's look at stocking our shipyard. Next slide, please. So first, as we're stocking our shipyard, we are looking at building out a complete application platform. And really our goal is to make sure that businesses have the right tools and frameworks in place to accelerate their time to value. And really, as we look at it from a building and delivering standpoint. We're automating as much as we can to reduce time to market. We look at a self-service model to improve developer velocity, as well as looking at improving the developer experience and to increase productivity. Next slide, please. Okay, so first, building out this application platform. And as we're diving right in, we see a number of areas of improvement throughout the year that are further building out this multi-tenant, multi-cluster, multi-arch story to build out the complete platform. Now, we're introducing a new lifecycle model and operators to enable these multi-tenant clusters. Each operator is going to have their own instance in each cluster. Now, we also have multi-tenant support in Quay. So the multi-tenant central registry, we're going to be able to build out a more scalable application platform. Now we'll be getting the CI/CD systems velocity in check with by being able to automatically prune old images. Now another enhancement that is being asked for a lot is mirroring large sets of external content, such as GitHub and Docker Hub. So we'll be able to aid developers with their image content and tooling. Now, there will be better Helm workflow support in Argo CD with enhancements including dynamic value lookup. We also see more automation. Now, automation we'll be able to update the GitHub repos automatically with Image Updater and the new push to image registries. Now, looking at more the traditional enterprise grade enhancements such as performance and networking, In Tekton, you'll see performance improvements with the Tekton controller. We'll be able to benchmark the Tekton controller as well as benchmark other Tekton components, and there'll be the introduction of concurrency. Networking improvements. Now, if you've seen a lot of the work being done upstream with the Gateway API, traditionally enhancements have always been with north-south, and now you'll see more east-west enhancements, which will enable more inter-cluster communication, as well as improvements to the service mesh. There's also support for dual stack IPv4 and IPv6 in service mesh. Now, let's look at, next slide, please. I do want to quickly mention there is the tech preview of Service Mesh 3 in Q1, so look out for that. All right, now as we stock the shipyard with the self-service delivery model, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about Backstage. Now, Backstage is a developer portal. It's powered by a centralized software catalog, and there's not only just one tool that works for everybody. So really, we're looking at providing curated golden paths while also giving you the flexibility to create your own. So with that said, towards the end of the year, you'll see Developer Hub GAing, which is based on Backstage. That'll give you more end-to-end developer workflows, and again, the flexibility to create your own. Also, you'll see platform integration. Initially, you'll be able to deploy with a Helm chart, and then you'll see operator support. And there are a number of Developer Hub plugins, and you'll see more coming throughout the year, initially with layered products like Argo CD, Tekton, Quay Container Image Registry, and then also multi-cluster view. Now, we don't only look at Developer Hub for providing this self-service delivery. You'll also see improvements to OpenShift Local. OpenShift Local, you can build your clusters and then deploy them without deploying them to production. So you can develop locally. Also, Developer Sandbox, there'll be a number of improvements and more curated tools and services for your developers. Next slide, please. Okay, now let's look at simplifying the developer experience. As you develop on your desktop, if you've played with Podman Desktop, there's going to be more integration with OpenShift Local. So you'll be able to deploy your desktop to OpenShift Local. Also, you can create, run, and manage your applications within the cluster using that browser-based dev console. There's also a number of end-to-end developer workflows that you'll be seeing. I already mentioned Backstage. So again, more golden paths for the developers so they do not have to worry about the tools in the cluster itself, about the infrastructure. All right, and then also improvements to your development environment. There's new extensions, including OpenShift Toolkit for VS Code, as well as IntelliJ. Last but definitely not least, OpenShift Serverless. You're going to be able to deploy templated functions, and this includes support for WASM. You'll see dev preview for WASM, and then also support for Python. All right, and now that we've stocked our shipyard, make sure you go look at the slides in the back. But now that we've stocked, we need to ship them. So on to you, Adel.
Thank you, Captain Karina. So as Captain Karina said, we have stocked the shipyard. We have all the raw materials we need. We have all the frameworks for developers and application. But how are we adapting and prepping our dear vessel, OpenShift, to cater for these applications and take them where they need to run on the hypercloud on-prem? Next slide. All right, so the first step we need to do is to anchor new ports. And we're doing that by expanding to new horizons and forging new alliances. We're expanding horizons on hypercloud and on-prem. On hypercloud, we're expanding to additional regions, including AWS and Azure. This is always the case. Whenever we have a new region in any of the cloud providers with a lead time of 3 months, we definitely have support for it. And then the next step is we want to allow you to deploy your workloads at the edge or even in your local data centers. With the help of AWS Wavelengths on OpenShift and AWS Outposts, you're going to be able to do that and more. We're expanding on-prem, so we're going to be able to deploy and distribute OpenShift clusters across multiple vSphere clusters. That means that basically in the backend, you're going to have multiple vCenters overlaid by your OpenShift deployment for high availability. We're also simplifying the process of adding nodes day 2 with the Dear agent installer. And this applies not only to vSphere, it applies to Nutanix, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, None, all the installation deployment methods. Next slide. So the next step of anchoring to new ports is we need to forge alliances. We can't do it all on our own. So we're forging that amazing alliance with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. We're expanding to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure with Rails-certified VM shapes, as Oracle calls it. And as a prereq, we need to have iSCSI support for Arcus root disks. Second thing we're doing is we're also enabling running OpenShift virtualization on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Basically, you're going to take your VMs not only on-prem, but also on cloud infrastructure with Oracle. Next slide. All right, so we can't go further without guarding the vessel against pirating. So we need to establish zero trust and make sure the vessel is ready for multi-cluster and fleets. So one of the things that we're doing is security hardened access control. So we're allowing user namespaces. Basically, you can run as root inside your containers while being non-root on the host. Less breaches, less vulnerabilities. We're also making sure that we're in upstream parity by allowing cost security admission in enforcement mode. Not only are you going to warn and audit what's happening on your cluster, but also you're going to be able to enforce it and prevent unwanted behavior. We're also unlocking advanced networking features with OpenShift virtualization by adapting OVN Kubernetes as a first-class native secondary network. That would basically enable you to have more control over your IP address management, but also implement micro-segmentation better. So there's a lot of goodies that is happening with OVN Kubernetes. We'll see, so tune in. We're allowing admin network policy and IPsec on north-south and east-west. Admin network policy allows you not only to deploy and employ policies on your namespaces, it is now going to be available on the cluster's code. With IPsec on north-south or east-west traffic, we're going to be encrypting traffic from your cluster to external endpoints. This is important, especially, for example, if you're deploying or connecting to services, for example, in an app outside of your cluster. As the other part of the story is, we need to prep the vessel for multi-cluster identity. And the first step to do that is to lay the foundation for you to bring your own OIDC provider. You're going to be able to configure and integrate with OIDC IDPs like Keycloak, like Azure IDP, and have access to OpenShift and Kubernetes APIs. This unlocks another step in the multi-cluster journey, basically cross-cloud identity. With the Spire integration that is upcoming, you're going to be able to glide through your clusters no matter where they got deployed, whether it's Rosa, Arrow, you name it. Next slide. Okay, so security and guarding. Guarding is a tough task and usually not very friendly with ease of use or, user experience. So we're trying to work on that. We're simplifying the user experience for guarding the vessel with Cert Manager. By adopting Cert Manager fully on our stack, we're going to enable auto-renewal and population of certificates to your OpenShift routes. So you're going to be seeing less of insecurity warnings for your default cluster routes. And you're not going to have the headache of manually configuring ingress to comply. We're also integrating Cert Manager with the Istio-CSR agent. This is especially important for you if you're an OpenShift service mesh lover and have mutual TLS across your stack. The headache of renewing a lifecycle and certificates is going to be removed by this integration. The other integration that we're working on is to leverage OC Mirror enclave support to centralize your OC content in disconnected and isolated environment. This is basically like having a centralized enterprise repo to access content from, whether it's OCP, the platform itself, or layered operators on top. We're also going to support validation and testing of additional issuers. So far, we've been doing that with Acme, but we're going to do more and more issuers like Binofi and others. Next slide. Okay, so we have guarded the vessel. Now we need to make sure that we can surf through the rough seas. Not all the seas are the same. Some seas are smooth to sail in, others are rough. So we're going to evolve our Windows container story. We're going to allow seamless Windows integrations. For example, we're going to allow the Windows config machine operator to run in disconnected mode. We're also streamlining identity management on Windows containers for Windows workloads. This is with the help of the group managed service accounts support. We're also enhancing our monitoring and cross-platform support. So initially, you would see Linux and Windows containers differently. We're going to make that experience on the console consistent, especially metrics and alerts. We're also doing a lot on multi-art. We're optimizing scheduling workloads with a scheduling operator, especially now that multi-art is an important part of the OpenShift platform. Whether it's cost or efficiency that you're looking after, we need to cater this and modify the scheduling logic to deploy whenever it makes sense on whichever architecture it makes sense. We're also scaling and diversifying our architectural support. For IBM Power and D clusters, for example, we're going to be allowing addition of x86 nodes on day 2 with the Asia-based support. We're also going to have heterogeneous control planes and node pools. That would basically means that potentially in the future, you're going to be able to deploy x86 control planes, Power, Z, ARM, node pools, and mix and match those. Next slide. Okay, so it's not about guarding the vessel or just adventuring or making sure we can adventure in different seas. We need to make sure that the vessel is reinforced. It's stable and resilient. So we're simplifying our update process and upgrade. We have heard you multiple times over and over with your pains with OC upgrades. So we're simplifying that with OC ADM update. We're adding more verbs. Verbs like update recommend, pre-checks, update status, recommendations. This is all going to allow you to preemptively flag issues and provide detailed status for stage rollouts. We're also enhancing our OpenShift virtualization experience. So especially, if you want to hot block CPU or memory or you're running VM, you're going to be able to do it. We're also going to partner with top-tier partners like VM, Kasten, and Trilio to allow you to do robust backup and recovery. For the resilience part of the story, we're doing etcd improvement, not only for standalone OpenShift, but also for hosted control planes. We're going to allow different auto defragmentation. We're going to allow auto compression for a more comprehensive backup and recovery story. We're also going to integrate and diagnose metrics. We're going to integrate metrics and dashboards for monitoring and tracing on etcd. So this will allow you to have targeted metrics, especially around disk and network jitter, that you can SLO and SLA to make sure that your etcd and your cluster deployment is resilient as ever. We're also enabling hardware RAID support with MetalCube for the 80% of the use cases in the top tier providers, Dell, Supermicro, HPE, via Redfish to boost OpenShift robustness. Next slide. Okay, now it's about customizing, redesigning, and equipping the vessel for the diverse voyages. OpenShift doesn't come in one in one shape or form. It comes in different forms. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we're customizing it so that we can traverse voyages differently. Sometimes you need to drop some heavy weight from the ship to be able to sail faster. Among these customizations, you can customize MTU. If you've deployed on cloud, you know the pain of jumbo frames, So this incompatibility can be a problem. So we're allowing you to customize and configure MTU during install time. We're also allowing configuration of external DNS with providers like Route 53, Google Cloud DNS, and more. We're also allowing you to customize Arcus boot images for your tailored use cases. The default Arcus boot image comes with specific drivers, but if you want to customize that on top, for specialized use cases, especially at the edge, you might need more drivers. So this is where this might be helpful. We're also unlocking, getting into a completely different scale with pod auto scaling. So imagine if you can deploy and merge the brains of VPA, vertical pod autoscaler, with horizontal pod autoscaler at the same time. So we're deploying vertically and horizontally when it makes sense. We're also redesigning our vessel to configure, things like optional ingress. Again, if you don't need the weight, you can drop it. So we're customizing that on the cloud, especially for ROSA deployments. We're also making sure that our hosted control planes form factor of OpenShift can run with layered operator, whether it's native to the platform or coming from third parties and partners. And we're enabling support for more providers in the future because we've been asked and we've seen demand for it. We are seeing vSphere and Nutanix, so we're going to do our best to make sure that we support these providers. Next slide. Okay, another part of customizing, the vessel for diverse voyages is we're doing improvements like optimizing Azure outbound traffic. Previously and historically, SNAT caused an issue. Port exhaustion issues. We're going to try and improve this a bit by having NAT gateway integration and having that be the default. Especially as Captain Tushar mentioned at the beginning, AI and machine learning workloads are very important. So we want to make sure that the platform, an OpenShift container platform, can cater to the needs of these AI and machine learning workloads, especially around job management. This can be in the form of job queuing, priority preemption, and quota management. Other improvements that we're doing is we're doing dual stack, not only on-prem, but on the cloud. And finally, we're doing access, for GCP. We're allowing, your service deployed using GCP Private Connect to connect to other GCP services with restricted API endpoints. We're also enabling shared VPC, also known as XPN, between your service and host project, where your host project contains, your management logic, and your service project, are connected and deployed, or contains clusters for different projects and different use cases. This is in line with GCP's best practices. Next slide. All right, so I'm handing over to Captain Jamie. Take it over.
Thank you, Captain Adele. So the ship is built, and that's great, but now I've got to keep watch on the ship. How do I know when something is going wrong? Well, you can do that with observability. So if something goes wrong, I want to be able to find issues fast. So we're helping with that by enabling fast troubleshooting sessions for tracing in Tempo, and also giving the ability to search across namespaces in Loki log storage. I want to see where the problem is. We're adding a UI for tracing in the OpenShift console. We're adding dashboards for power monitoring, and we are evolving the observability UI. You'll be able to group by tab and charts by topic, and we're providing dashboard customization functionalities. I want proactive alerting. So we're expanding the alert manager capabilities for metrics. We're also enabling users to get alerts through log storage for that extra layer of security. And maybe I've got more than one ship I need to keep watch on. So you can now, we're enabling multi-cluster observability. We will have Loki multi-cluster log storage through ACM, multi-cluster tracing storage through ACM, and we have Thanos metric storage also within ACM. And I want to be able to have a standard language for all of these signals. So we're adding support for OpenTelemetry in metrics, logs, and traces, and we are adding a collector for OpenTelemetry. We are also using eBPF to observe signals for network observability and also power monitoring for sustainability. Next slide, please. So now that I have seen what's wrong, I want to be able to take action on that. So we are giving the ability to correlate observability signals. We're adding correlator to correlate observability signals for metrics, logs, and traces. In network observability, we're adding the ability to correlate those blocked traffic to see what caused that block. And more additions within the OpenShift console, a debugging panel will help investigate the root causes of issues, and knowledge graphs can switch from one signal to another. For analytics, we're adding anomaly detection for metrics so we can identify abnormal values. And in tracing, we are going to have request, error, and duration metrics, red metrics, so users can understand their applications a little better. We've recently released power monitoring as a dev preview for sustainability. That gives you a way to observe and estimate power consumption at the process, container, and pod levels. It uses eBPF to collect those energy-related system stats and lets you observe and take action on your OpenShift system's power consumption. For insights, the deployment of validation operator will expand insights to OpenShift workloads, give best practice recommendations based on SRE best practices, and Insights Advisor will support hosted control planes. And we also have Insights Cost Management. So that will help you visualize your OpenShift and your cloud costs, give resource optimization, report costs so you can bill internal or external customers, and then define those platform costs so that you can distribute them across tenants. Next slide, please. So also, now that we're getting used to building ships, we want to build them a little faster, get those processes more streamlined. So some of the ways that we are doing that in OpenShift is cluster API migration. So we are converging machine API and cluster API into one single solution so that we can reduce the maintenance burden. So cluster API will be adding support alongside machine API, implementing feature parity, and then in time, machine API will be removed. We're streamlining networking, so deprecating IP tables. We're migrating occurrences of IP tables in OpenShift to use NF tables instead, and performing those migrations within OpenShift upgrades to try to minimize network disruption. We're deprecating the OpenShift SDN CNI plugin in favor of OVN, and also doing an Istio implementation of Gateway API. And with OCP-Vert, we are streamlining VM deployments. You'll be able to reduce your cost and deploy faster with multi-tenant hosted OpenShift clusters. You'll be able to use ACM for the VM cycle and workflow. And then also you can deploy VMs as code for GitOps using Tekton and Argo CD pipeline. Next slide, please. We are further streamlining workloads by adding WebAssembly workload support in OCP. And also streamlining the OpenShift CLI. So we're going to start delivering the OpenShift CLI via OpenShift CLI Manager. So the number of projects in OpenShift increases, and the number of CLIs also increase, and each one has its own download location and different ways of installing them. So we're moving towards OpenShift CLI Manager to ease the support burden on that for both developers and cluster admins. So with this, you can give a crew plugin manifest file and install the CLI using the OC crew install command. So a bit more streamlined. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have built our ships. We're happy with our ships. But now I want to sail more than one ship. I want to sail a fleet, and I'm going to get out in the open waters, and I need to figure out where the scary pirates. So Captain Scott and Captain Kirsten, can you help me out with that?
My sweet sister Jamie. Yar, ladies, thanks for joining. I feel your pain. Let me help you. From the bridge, we look out across the seas and we see the waves, we see the harsh tides. We hear about commanding the fleet. Next slide, please. How do we help you navigate those seas and route to safe harbors? In Rackham, at Red Hat Advanced Cluster Management for Kubernetes, we're focusing on 3 key areas of strategy. What we call stolos means the fleet, and that's at the heart of what we do, whether that's in observability, governance with risk and compliance, and scale. These are 3 areas you can expect us to deliver great value. Particularly, we're excited about bringing those metrics, logs, and traces. Thank you to my deckmate, my captain, Jamie, for providing that, so we can bring that together in one place under observability. I know a lot of you are facing challenges with costs, looking for reductions in wasted space, looking for optimizations. Let us bring right sizing to you. Let us help you navigate those seas, pain, the turmoil of the changing tides. In governance, I have enhanced policy compliance timeline. You've been asking and we're listening. With advanced operator capabilities, provide operator management at a level that scales to the fleet, providing you those controls to embrace the speed of your business as you move across versions in the operator lifecycle. We're helping you protect the investment with governance, protecting those vessels with governance. And in scale, it doesn't matter what you're deploying. It could be microshift, hypershift, single node compact, and whatever comes next. We love the fact that you have diverse workloads that you need to run in wild environments, exotic new frontiers. We're there for you, embracing your growth challenges all along the way. Next slide, please. So let's zoom in here just a little bit on that fleet observability. I love the notion of providing you more clarity, filtering out that noise so you can perform root cause in a shorter time period, bringing the trifecta of metrics, logs, and traces into one spot for near-term root cause analysis, thinning out the noise, encouraging you to find the particular piece of evidence that helps you trace back to where everything went south, helping you answer that question, what changed? A ripe opportunity that we're prototyping actively in the OpenShift arena. Talking about that fleet overview, it wouldn't be complete without Alert Management UI. We have designs in the works. We have an effort underway to build that out and provide you an alert management experience that you've been asking for. Hey, don't forget our buddies over there in CCX. Our shipmates are designing new opportunities and new ways to take analytics and deliver those through Red Hat Insights. We work closely with our mates over there to ensure we have a consistent experience within ACM. Honestly, guys, custom dashboarding is so straightforward with ACM, but we're going to get better. I know a lot of you want to do that directly within the OpenShift console. We are iterating right now on prototypes to make that possible, to make that happen. So one spot of delivery for your dashboards, whether they're custom or not, and bringing those into the OpenShift console straight away. And lastly, keep this in mind as you navigate that fleet, as you deploy all those exotic clusters into new places, we provide the basis for controls across your fleet metrics, your logging and your traces, and service meshes. These are areas we cover already, and we continue to do and expand, especially in cases like service mesh management. Hey, we're looking good with observability, but take it away to the next slide for governance. I need guardrails on these ships, right? I can't allow them to just sail away into the night. I got to know where they're going. I got to understand that there's strict controls over the routes they're taking to these new harbors. So we provide advanced features within governance to help you simplify your operations and build confidence about exploring the next 10, 20, 200, 2,000 clusters that you're designing and deploying. One way that we know we need to improve that is with advanced operator management, working closely with our mates in OLM to understand how they're building lifecycle into OLM operators and delivering a new policy type that makes it easier to configure and upgrade and maintain those operators at scale. That's awesome. Honestly, I don't know how we're going to do all this, guys, but we're going to do compliance history too. Holy smokes, we're going to provide a longer timeline for audit requirements that need basically more history. So a separate database will offer the opportunity for a longer period of time when looking at compliance history. We're looking at enforcing resources with progressive rollout strategy. This is a key area that we've been iterating on upstream, and I'm so thankful for our mates in the topology-aware lifecycle management space for helping us guide the ship forward and move the ball. Well, it's not a ball anymore. It is a ship. It's a vessel. Move that vessel further along. We're looking at setting filters and UI support for this to make it easy to adopt within your team. And lastly, on this slide is in the enhanced experience of governance UI. We continue to build custom fields for allowing you to sort policies and move beyond a simplified experience, but get deeper to things like severity and understand where the policy is out of line. With that, I'd like to introduce Captain Kirsten Newcomer, who's going to sail us away into an adventure of security and beyond.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Captain Scott. Just a quick reminder to all you folks out there listening, Red Hat Advanced Cluster Security here to help you protect your fleet against bad actors, including stowaways, and to help you repel boarders. And we do that through the use cases you see listed here. Just a quick reminder. Next slide, please. So as we look at the ACS roadmap, we're working to improve the overall experience across OpenShift Platform Plus and across the Red Hat portfolio. You can scan for known vulnerabilities using ACS or the Claire scanner with Quay today. We're working to deliver that as the same consolidated scanner so that regardless of which solution you choose, you get the same results, accurate and consistent scan results, and common level language support across both those solutions. We're also working with our product security team to adopt the new security framework, data framework that they're providing, the Common Security Advisory Framework and the VEX profile, and we'll be doing that again across ACS and Quay. And both solutions are looking to provide the ability to import and export software bill of materials so that you can then map known vulnerabilities to those SBOMs. So whether you create that SBOM with ACS or import an SBOM that you've gotten from another source, we'll be able to provide you with that vulnerability data. We're also working to improve scoped access control for ACS. We want to make it easier to separate the data that needs to be addressed or the violations that need to be addressed by admins versus developers or application teams. So we'll be working to provide namespace admin workflows and integrations so that developers will have the ability to view just the namespaces they have access to on their clusters. and providing a variety of views and filters for grouping results using the concept of collections across the solution. Next slide, please. We're also drilling down into improving compliance, policy management, and network security. So similar to ACM, you have compliance data available in ACS as well. We have an integration with the OpenShift compliance operator. We're investing in that to give you the ability to manage those scans via ACS, schedule them, store trend data, and export those compliance operator reports for auditors as a way to enhance what's already available. ACS also provides workload compliance. We're also investing in improving our approach to policy management so that we can meet that often much requested approach of doing policies, managing policies with a GitOps approach. Stay tuned, that'll be coming. And we're working to provide better information on how to help you focus your attention on riskier deployments, in particular heat maps in our network graph, and also offering networking guardrails to help you work with your developers to ensure that network policies they define for their applications meet the overall network security team's system policies. Next slide, please. We're investing also in core BPF. We call that's compile once, run everywhere, BPF. This feeds our collector and allows ACS to monitor a wider set of Linux kernels with less work, and it makes it easier for you to deploy the collector on a wider range of those Linux hosts. We're also adding testing to ensure that we support OpenShift and ROSA with hosted control planes, support for IBM Red Hat OpenShift, Red Hat Device Edge, and also, of course, OpenShift and StarKS on ARM. So these are things that you'll be seeing incrementally delivered over the next year or so. Next slide, please. And finally, investing in the security ecosystem. We've been working with our partner, Paladin Cloud, to provide an integration between Paladin and ACS for full stack cloud-native application protection. This means that you get the advantage of the cloud infrastructure protection that Paladin Cloud offers in combination with ACS kube-native security capabilities. So there's we're also investing in improving our ServiceNow integration. We have an integration today, but we'll be updating that integration to work with the ServiceNow Vulnerability Response and Alerts plugin to streamline vulnerability management through ServiceNow for those of our customers who are primarily focused on using ServiceNow as their workflow engine. And that's a summary of the investments in Red Hat ACS. Hand off now to Captain Oren.
Thank you, Captain Kirsten. So we've been talking a lot about our own ships, right? And how do we build our ships? How do we better securitize our ships? How do we monitor them? How do we keep track of, what's coming up and seeing where's, safe route to get our goods to its destination? But we also have another paradigm, right, for getting our goods to where they need to go. So instead of being able and having to manage our own fleet of ships and everything that goes along with that, we can change that and maybe have somebody else manage the ships where we can only now focus on our goods, getting our goods to the destination that is necessary. And that's what we're doing with Red Hat OpenShift Cloud Services. Next slide, please. So when our customers decide to utilize our services, right, and really kind of manage OpenShift in specific, there are a number of reasons for doing so, and they come into a few different areas, right, and some of which you see here on the slide. So one of them is really just quick time to value, and this is really about the amount of time that it takes to get hands on keyboard, to start giving that innovation and working on the stuff that is actually important for you. Most of the time in many organizations, and especially in traditional IT organizations, you're really looking at somewhere in the days to weeks time frame. But I've also heard in a surprising number of cases where it was in the months time frame. So if you think about that time that could have been better used towards other things that are more important to your organization, rather than kind of waiting for things to happen. So you're able to start operating quickly. And it's more than even just that, right? It's more than just kind of building the Kubernetes cluster, but it's also about all the components that are needed to go along with that. So all the tangential components that you need to successfully operate a production-grade cluster is handled for you as well. And with this, you're able to just operate a lot more effectively, right? So Red Hat, and in partnership with our partners, depending on the offering you choose, right, we provide the full stack deployment, full stack management of everything dealing with the cluster. So everything down from the lower level infrastructure, right, storage, networking, the platform itself, and even your application images. Now, to be clear, not your applications, but the underlying images, the base images that are used. If you choose to use the Red Hat UBI images, you're going to get support throughout that entire stack, really leaving you free to focus on the things that ultimately matter, and that's like kind of your goods, right? And sticking with our metaphor, your applications, providing an easy ability to upgrade with really 2 or 3 clicks. We do the proactive monitoring to help stave off of any issues from occurring, and really providing you a 99.95 SLA. So if you think about all of that headache that's now alleviated off of your plate, right, how much more freedom do you have to really focus on that innovation, to do the things that ultimately matter to your business, rather than focusing on the clusters or really kind of focusing on the ships. And ultimately, you're getting a choice with a consistent experience across those options, right? So whether you decide to go with, ROSA on AWS, or Azure Red Hat OpenShift on Microsoft, or OpenShift dedicated, or on IBM Cloud, you're going to get that same OpenShift experience across those offerings. And on top of that, you also get flexibility in how you choose to consume it. So whether you want to just, pay as you go and have a cluster running for a couple of hours, or whether you want to commit for the longer term and get better discounting, you have that flexibility of choice in order to do that. Next slide, please. So some of the things that we've been actively investing in across the offerings, right? So in Arrow, we've already delivered on a number of things, and that is offering optional infrastructure nodes, right? So no OpenShift fee for those infrastructure nodes. We've increased the cluster sizes to 120 nodes, and have also enabled preview of bring your own or custom NSGs. 2 major pieces of work that we're going to be focusing on into next year and in the next year are going to be enabling managed identities and workload identities for Azure Red Hat OpenShift. So this will enable short-term credentials and a lot more granular permissions. So, improving the security posture of the cluster, as well as enabling hosted control planes as well. So enabling you to save on some of the control plane costs for that. Aside from that, we're continuing to expand regional availability, expanding the supported instance types, and as well as looking to increase the maximum sizes of the cluster. So we're working on improving the customer experience with integration of signals with Azure Monitor, and then also GAing custom NSGs. And that, along with obviously also including newer versions of OpenShift as they become available. On the ROSA side, we're actively working towards FedRAMP, and in the FedRAMP space, so we've already achieved FedRAMP High agency ATO, and we are also working with the FedRAMP PMO on JAB authorization that is targeted in the next year. We're expanding features with Terraform support, increasing the amount of regions that it's available in, and also the number of instance types. We've released hosted control planes as a tech preview feature in the last few months, and we will be moving that to GA towards the end of this year. And ultimately, to also continue to improve security, we'll be working on deprecating the non-STS version of ROSA. So therefore, you can only go with short-term token approach rather than a long-term authentication methods in some of the older implementations. Next slide. With OpenShift dedicated on Google Cloud, we're making significant investments here. We've just added the ability to purchase this from the GCP marketplace, working on supporting shared VPCs, expanding the offering to new instance types and regions, and also enabling short-term credential support with workload identity federation. And on OSD on AWS, just working on further integrating with OpenShift Cluster Manager, allowing you to set your own custom default machine pools, expanding the capabilities of managed ingress to more closely align with self-managed OCP, and expanding the service log to enable more notifications and more customizability. So that wraps it up for Red Hat OpenShift Cloud Services, and I'll turn it over to Captain Michal.
Thanks, Captain Oren. Now let's focus on Telco Edge C, a specific reservoir compared to other Cs because of regulations which we have to meet if we want to be able to sail on it. Next slide, please. Red Hat Edge computing activities in the past have been focusing on Telco Edge compute use cases, especially around 5G core. Now we are extending our edge capabilities to other domains: industrial, retail, public, defense edge computing. We are focusing on three major themes for that. Extend our capabilities to the smallest edge devices with Red Hat Device Edge and Microshift, create a consistent management experience across all footprints from small to big cloud core, as Captain Scott mentioned earlier, talking about the commanding a fleet. And finally, simplify and speed up edge deployments. So let's take a close look at that, starting with the Red Hat Edge devices and Microshift. Next slide, please. Microshift, a small form factor Kubernetes distribution, is targeted field deployed edge devices with as little as 2 cores, 2 gigabits of RAM. Microshift is currently tech preview, but will reach general availability with 4.14 pretty soon now. In the next upcoming 12 months, we intend to focus on compliance topics to address security concerns. Another big topic is consistent management. We are working on the integration with our management capabilities of AAP, ACM, ACS. Although, as those management may not be able to be in place, we are also plan to add observability and GitOps capabilities. To simplify those activities, we intend to add support for the operator lifecycle manager with Microshift to allow easy adding of operator-based solutions. Another frequently used solution for Edge is single node of OpenShift. Let's continue with that. Next slide, please. We continue our trajectory of reducing control plane resource usage to make more room for workload. A major focus is in the next year will be also on faster Edge rollouts to minimize time for installation, upgrades, and rollbacks. Let's see on the next slide how and why we want to plan to do this. As you know very well, Telco is a specific C with specific requirements for vessels. Red Hat is being pushed to meet a high standard in operational KPIs for far edge deployments. We are planning to address those challenges by developing the following new features. First, we want to introduce tooling to generate pre-installed DU-configured single-node OpenShift image, also known as seed image. Secondly, off-node backup and restore of DU and OpenShift DU configuration. And finally, deliver one more feature for zero-touch configuration to apply site-specific configuration to the node with seed image. Those tools will help us to improve operational processes. An upgrade procedure makes use of seed image and backup and restore. Break fix procedure makes use of seed image and again backup and restore. And finally, installation procedure that makes use of seed image and zero-touch configuration. Let's move to the next slide. We aim to continue our journey over the Oran Sea by promoting an intent-based API and the Kubernetes declarative paradigm. It is not our intention to slow down our efforts in exploring PTP, hardware acceleration, and cloud areas. To align with the O2 IMS interfaces, we have embarked on the implementation of the O2 IMS Inventory API, and we will gradually add Oran features to our roadmap when API specifications are available. Last but not least, in the Oran, we wish to focus on hardware management. We strive to use our experience from POCs with hardware vendors to be able to deploy and provision the cloud and chart a course for a hardware acceleration. Time is moving on, so let's turn to the next slide. So far, we talked a lot about RAN and Edge. Now let's take a look at 5G Core. At the beginning of the 5G Core rollout, large multi-clusters have been deployed with the idea, since this is just one cluster to operate, that they would be more efficient in terms of workload packaging density as well as operations. This was perfect until the first OpenShift upgrade was done. Why? Someone asked. Some CNF vendors have been quite slow to support the latest version of OpenShift. So in consequences to that, the upgrade wasn't triggered until the last CNF vendor was ready to operate on the new version of OpenShift. This is the issue that can be ultimately solved by all CNF vendors, but the new model that will emerge is one cluster per CNF vendor. Therefore, the OpenShift cluster can be updated for one cluster at a time as soon as CNF is ready to work on the newest version of OpenShift. And beyond CNF vendors, the new architecture permits to collocate 5G Core, 5G VCU, IMS, and other telco network functions on the same set of server racks. Moreover, it permits to scale in and out the cluster independently and limit blast radius of cluster failure. This evolution has been made possible by the multi-cluster management stack that has been implemented for Far Edge, where a hub cluster manages thousands of remote workload clusters. We want to reuse all these components and elements here with ACM, ZTP GitOps, and we will add the hosted control plane as we deploy 3 control plane cluster instead of a single one. HCP permits to avoid dedicating one physical server per control plane node. Red Hat is investing in a new model and also keeps supporting the large multi-vendor cluster. Thank you, and back to you, Tushar.
Thank you, Captain Mikhail. Thank you, everybody. I'll just show this last slide. As you all know, the What's New and What's Next presentations, we upload them and they're available publicly at this URL. If you want to try anything on OpenShift and want to learn more, you can go to try.openshift.com or learn.openshift.com. And of course, we have our OpenShift Commons where our users, partners, and contributors come together. So please join there as well. And we'll hope to see you, some of you at KubeCon in next week. Thank you again and happy Halloween.